Hello, everyone. I'm Bo from Brutal Commentary, and today I'm going to talk about our next matchup for UFC 322. We got Gerald Meerschaert taking on Kyle Daukaus. Meerschaert is 37-20 as a professional, 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Meanwhile, Daukaus is 16-4 as a professional, 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Looking at Meerschaert's last five, he was on a nice win streak, submitting Brian Barberena and Edmund Shabazian. Now on a 3-fight skid, losing to Renier de Ridder last November. But you know what? No shame in the loss. Renier de Ridder, still a really good fighter. Lost a decision to Brad Tavares this April. And then most recently at UFC 319 this August, got knocked out pretty bad by Mikhail Alexiejczuk, where Meerschaert looks so slow and so old. Which is a shame too, because like you look at Meerschaert, he has like the most finishes in middleweight division history. Meanwhile, looking at Daukaus, at one point he was in the UFC career, fought some names like Kevin Holland and Roman Dolidze, for an example, but unfortunately got released after some losses. Rode a 4-fight win streak, 3 of which were by finish, and so Daukaus got the call to fight Michel Pereira this August on late notice and knocked Michel Pereira out pretty quickly. So now Daukaus gets a second chance in the UFC where he's seemingly better. So you got a clash at middleweight, which I think carries a bit more weight than simply win or lose ledger suggests. So for one side, you got GM3, a veteran grappler with some monstrous submissions and a career that's seen plenty of highs and lows. And on the other hand, you got Kyle Daukaus, the younger, hungrier athlete whose specialty lies in high-level jiu-jitsu, who's looking to push his career forward. So it's style versus style, experience versus momentum. So, without further ado, let's see who wins. Look at that GM3 style. Well, it's very distinct. Above all else, GM3 is a submission specialist, as 29 of his careered wins are by submission. And GM3 style is built around grappling dominance, where Gerald Meerschaert is going to want to get you to the ground, and from there either secure or the back or lock in a transition, and that's where he's extremely dangerous. One of the most recent examples is easily his win over Edmund Shabazian, where Meerschaert was able to survive some real early adversity, got dropped in that fight, and it looked like Shabazian was on his way to a second round TKO, but Meerschaert survived the storm. Edmund Shabazian gassed himself out, and eventually Meerschaert got the takedown and went for the arm triangle. You can never count out GM3. You really can't. He's the king of comeback submissions in the middleweight division. Now, on the feet, Meerschaert's nothing to write home about. He's not elite, but Meerschaert is also not primarily celebrated for being a knockout artist. That being said, he does have some effective striking. He actually has like a win over, has a win via body shot, for example, and actually dropped Bruno Silva at that time, where Bruno Silva seemed like a really good threat. But what makes Meerschaert's style so effective is that willingness to grind, to fight his fight on his terms, push the pace when he wants, and to take you down on his terms, scramble, and then finally come for the finish. If there is some concerns for Meerschaert in this fight, he is 37. He has a lot of fights. And you saw in Mikhail Alexiejczuk where I think that was his worst performance to date, especially at least of these 3 losses, where GM3 looked so slow. Oh, it kind of just looked like he was underwater there, not really trying to get the takedown. And his recent record shows that Meerschaert can be really challenged when he's taking on well-rounded opponents. And his takedown defense has also not been the great, but Meerschaert is really good at submissions off his back too. And when you have such a good ground game, you don't usually rely on that takedown defense. But still, his path to victory, I feel like, is clear. Dominate via the ground. I just don't know if he's going to do that with Kyle Daukaus, though. Now, looking at Daukaus, 6'3", in the division, nicknamed the Dark Knight for a very good reason. His strength lies in his jiu-jitsu pedigree, as Daukaus has secured a large portion of his wins via submission, 11 of his 16 wins. It's got really good takedown defense at an 83% clip, which underpins his approach. Daukaus is more of a technician than you would think of a slugger, as Daukaus often approaches pretty calm mindset, I'd say, focusing on controlling the pace, setting up his jiu-jitsu chains, and capitalizing on the when the opportunity arises. Now, his striking is not a standout trait, but he's clearly improved upon it and improved his power. You saw it as Michel Pereira was trying to exit out, hands low, clearly no respect for the power coming his way. Daukaus catches him with a hook as Michel Pereira is leaving, and then finishes off with an emphatic, big one-shot ground and pound. Now, but still, at the same time, you're not going to see Kyle Daukaus outbox many people. He needs to neutralize threats, close the distance when needed, and impose that grappling game. One important note, while his submission game is elite in his record, there is still some questions of how Daukaus can handle veteran pressure, big takedown wrestlers or submission hunters who are experienced at scrambles. But his youth, technical edge, and his grappling base gives him a clear path in a matchup like this with a Gerald Meerschaert. Kind of thinking about how these two are going to meet in the middle. Once these two hit the ground, I'm very intrigued. And when these two step, and Meerschaert is probably going to want to drag this fight into the ground. Submission hunting, scrambles, that is Meerschaert's world. And Meerschaert can get Daukaus to the mat. He's confident. While on the other hand, Daukaus is going to want to be the one dictating the grappling pace, controlling the takedown attempts, and using his own jiu-jitsu to his advantage. Meerschaert is not immune to getting subbed. I mean, Renier de Ridder subbed him, for example. So, high-level jiu-jitsu artists like a Daukaus do have potential to submit Meerschaert. Now, in the early phases, I think you should watch out for Meerschaert perhaps trying to establish his clinch, feint some takedowns, and scrambling attempts, while Daukaus, I think, is going to want to maintain range, use his size and defense to keep the fight in more favorable positions for him, and avoid being drawn into survival mode early. And if Meerschaert can survive the first 10 minutes unhurt and gets Daukaus into a bad division, I do see a clear path for Meerschaert. But the risk is high. Daukaus has shown good takedown defense multiple times and an ability to choose when he wants to grapple, not to mention improved power. To where I do think he's going to hurt GM3 a few times in this fight, as I do think GM3's chin is not what it used to be. Another key will be transitions. If Meerschaert goes for a takedown and Daukaus defends well, then I think Daukaus can push from top or reset upright and avoid Meerschaert's submission trap. And Daukaus' ability to chain from strikes to takedowns or clinch are going to be crucial neutralizing Meerschaert's jiu-jitsu overall. Also, cardio and pace is an interesting one for me because, Meerschaert is, like I said, 37. He is older. And the question is, does he's got enough left in the tank to make it an ugly fight against Daukaus? So what I personally see happening, I think Daukaus is going to close distance, mix strikes just enough to set up entries, drag Meerschaert to uncomfortable grappling or controlling positions, not get caught in any of Meerschaert's submissions, and gradually take over the narrative. Meerschaert's opportunity, catch something early, lock up a sub, or impose his own grappling dominance. But I lean towards Daukaus will deny the full extent of that dominance and steer the fight into zones more favorable for his skill set. So, my official prediction, I am going to go with Kyle Daukaus. I believe he has the skill set, the mindset, and the positional edge to take this fight. Meerschaert is dangerous, always. There was a time where 3 things were given: death, taxes, and GM3 third round subs. Unfortunately, we have not seen the GM3 round 3 sub in quite a while now, and I do not believe we're going to get it again. But so I see Daukaus' takedown defense, his own submission chops, his clear power edge, and his ever-evolving striking to be the edge in here. I think Daukaus is going to steadily impose his game, perhaps even use his takedown and dominance later into the fight, and I think even go for his own submission. If this does go to a decision, I see Daukaus winning on controlling positions, avoiding big mistakes, and being better conditioned in the later rounds. But I really think he can get a sub in this fight. I mean, he is the Dark Knight. He has really good submission game. And, like I said, GM3 has been submitted before. Makes me think, how many times has GM3 been subbed in his career? All right, well, he's had 9 losses by submission. And besides Renier de Ridder, the last guy to submit him, and that's not including Paul Craig in a grappling match, but it's cool that they actually grappled with each other. No. Wow. Jack Hermanson, way back in 2018, was the last time Meerschaert had actually been submitted. I think Daukaus can get another submission, and maybe I can see a Darce choke. I really want to see the Darce Knight get a Darce choke against one of the better submission artists in the middleweight division. But still, like I said, I got Kyle Daukaus in this fight. I'm leaning towards submission, but I can also see a knockout too. He has improved in his power. But with that being said, I've been Bo from Brutal Commentary. If you liked the video, like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below on who you think is going to win. With that being said, stay calm, stay respectful, and enjoy the violence. I'll see y'all next time.